first of all, thanks to Q. This is brilliant. Like this has been tried a few times in various places, these networking events and stuff like that, and it's never taken off. I was at the first one, and some of you were at the first one. Like there was around the same number and the same number again at this, which is good to see it's taken off in Cork. Like because it's very hard to get people together in a room. People have other stuff and work and stuff like that, so it is hard to get people together in a room. So thanks for having me, first of all. I suppose when you do stuff like this, I'll introduce myself and stuff like that in a minute. Some of you know me, so when you do stuff like this, I always like to think, look, I'd have a team for a presentation. Q couldn't get anyone else to talk, so I said I'd come in and do it. No, literally, he literally couldn't get anyone else to talk. I wasn't his first choice. I feel like a bridesmaid here. He got me at like third choice or something like that. He asked me to come in. I always say when I do talks like this, there's a theme and a subject to it, but I like to open up, like people might come with ideas and questions they have, so I always kind of look it up. I'll do my bit at the start, risk and liability, and where I come in on that, and the kind of themes I have on that. But feel free to shout, feel free to shout if you've got input or, cases you're involved in or incidents you're involved in, So I'm going to talk a bit about risk and liability and me and what I do and how I approach it and stuff like that. And then afterwards it's open. And I say questions and answers. It doesn't have to be on risk and liability, anything at all. If I don't know the answer, I'll bluff it. Usually is the case, yeah. If I don't know the answer, I'll find out. I'll get details off you. I'll find out. I've got a phone book filled with like barristers and solicitors and data protection people that I cobbed free advice off every now and again. So I'll just add your questions to a list of free questions that I get from them every now and again. So I suppose a little bit of introduction to me, I suppose. Tony O'Brien's the name, like I said. Some of you know me. I run a company called Security Operative Consultancy Services, which is a bit like a business that I have by accident. About 3 years ago, I started a blog called securityoperative.ie just for the crack. I've been training for a lot of years, and I started putting out articles and stuff like that, and all of a sudden people started ringing me saying, can you come work for me? And I thought, Jesus, this is handy, so it kind of happened by accident. This year it's kind of gone into a fully fledged consultancy business. Some of you are working here. At the minute I work with about in terms of just venues around the country, in terms of entertainment, I've worked with about 30 venues in hospitality area, retailers, multinationals, corporate areas. I do a significant amount of legal work for insurance firms and solicitors firms and stuff like that. In the areas of security liability, use of force incidents, false arrest incidents, defamation incidents involving security, where I provide expert witness reports for the High Court and the Circuit Court and places like that. I do maybe between kind of 12 and 15 cases a year. That's not to say we win them all on our side, but we at least provide the reports and stuff like that. I've been involved 19 years last year. I'll be 20 years this year. Paddy's Day, I'll be 20 years in the security industry now. It makes me feel really old. Every January I feel older and older. The first ID you check, and it says that people born in the year 2002 can drink in nightclubs this year. If that doesn't make you feel excruciatingly old, nothing will. I remember drinking in nightclubs in 2002. So I started off in the security industry, kind of fell into it by accident. I've been involved in martial arts since a very young age. When I was 17, I was asked to help a friend of mine out on the door of a Supermax. And it kind of rolled like that ever since. I don't recommend that as an entry point for people into the security industry, by the way. Don't start off in a Supermax. It's not your wisest career choice. Moved on from there, worked in hotel security for a number of years. I was lucky enough with the jobs that I kind of fell into that I got to travel around a little bit. I got to work in security in various countries around the world, and martial arts has brought me around the world a little bit. I've worked in retail security, pubs, nightclubs. I kind of specialise in hotels for a good few years, 4- and 5-star hotels, and I still do that. Training, I kind of fell into training when licensing came in. Like a lot of people who were in the industry at the time, I thought, ooh, there looks like lots of money in that. They brought in mandatory licensing. Everybody was running training courses. Some of you remember, it was one-day training course. People were flying through the door. We had 25,000 people to get through in 6 months. There was money being fired at it, and I thought, yeah, this looks good. And then I went around and looked at some of the training courses, and they were pretty horrendous. So I went into training from then, and I've been involved in the licensing courses ever since. I don't get to do a lot of licensing courses much anymore. Some of you, or probably most of you that have trained with me, will probably know me from the security management course. I deliver ICSE's level 6 security management course. We've got at least 1, 2, you did, didn't you? No? 1, 2, you did. At least 4 people here, I think, that did that course with me. Some better than others, to be fair now, but so I deliver that. I deliver private programs, and then I do consultancy and penetration testing, and then I go to court, and that's my week in a nutshell, basically. So I started off, like, when it comes to risk and liability, there's a lot. People get their advice from different directions, and I always say to people, I give courses and I give talks and stuff like that. Don't take my word for it. Anton, I tell you here today, please do not take my word for it. Go and check. I'd like to think that I know what I'm talking about. I tell myself that in the mirror most mornings. I just look in the mirror and say, you know what you're talking about, before I go to work, and then bluff it for the day. So But people have different views on it. You'll have the views of insurers, you'll have the views of the legal profession, and you'll have the views of people in the hospitality and the services professions, and you'll have the views of people in security. And they're all coming at it from their own kind of bias, you know. You will have people within the legal industry who are coming from a point of view of, you know, legal cases that they need to get to make money. You'll have insurers who are coming from the cases, yeah, well, let's lose the least money possible, and how do we make the most money in terms of premiums and stuff like that. You'll have people in security that are looking to sell security services, and you're going to have people in hospitality that are looking to not have claims, which is a myth. You know, if you're involved in a service which is open to the public, you will have liability claims. There is no way of avoiding it. It doesn't matter whether you're a swimming pool, a coffee shop. It does not matter. If you open your doors to the public, you are going to be in court at some point. Might take a year, might take 5 years, might take 10 years, but it's the nature of, I suppose, the way society has gone. And I'd say probably the vast majority of people through the course of their security career have had cases that have gone to court. You can do not a lot wrong in this industry and still go to court because of the way the system is set up. Like, you know, access to justice, constitutional right to access to justice. It's fantastic when you need it, not so fantastic when you're on the other end of it, you know. So in terms of what we'll talk about today, a little bit about liability and the law. There's a lot of myths out there about liability and what people can sue you for, what they can't sue you for, when they can sue you, who can sue you and who can't. What I like to call the window of liability, which is what I go through with businesses and stuff like that. I always like to say, once you open your doors to the public, the window of liability flies open. It's wide open, and you take various steps to close it over them, inch by inch. But it's never completely closed. The door is always kind of ajar a little bit, and people can try and push it open with exaggerated claims and frauds and over-exaggerating injuries, and you're trying to keep it closed by mitigating against that with things like CCTV and note-taking and audit trails and stuff like that. You can never completely close that window. The only way of completely closing that window is to close your doors again. That's the only way of keeping that window completely closed. The business itself, the clients that a lot of us will work for, are the ones who take the majority of the risk. But I suppose as people who provide their security, there's a role that we have to play in terms of guardians of that liability that's entrusted to us. What I'm starting to see in an awful lot of client tenders now that are going out, where I work with security companies or when I work with companies in designing tenders to send out to security companies, is that they're starting to put indemnity clauses into their tenders much more so, to pass the complete indemnity for any liability that happens when security is there completely over to the security supplier. Now, it's arguable whether that's going to be enforceable in court or not when it comes down to it, in that the owner or occupier will still have some liability. But more and more, I read one very recently, a security company has been contracted to a large pub chain in Ireland. And the SLA, the service level agreement that was handed to them, said that if any accident, incident, whether it's a slip, trip, fall, fight, deliberate act by your security happens between the hours that security have signed on and signed off, you take full responsibility for that accident and you indemnify me against it. And the security company were really strongly considering signing this because it's a big nationwide pub contract around the country. But I would say, look, you might have X amount of man hours in this in a week or a month, you know, in X amount of venues across the country. One claim, all of your profit for the year is gone, and you've basically given your client free rein to say, you don't have to put in place cleaners, you don't have to put in place slip, trip, fall signs, because everything's on us. You know, and that's what clients are starting to do more and more. Why supply security if you're going to take the risk yourself? Why employ a security place if you're going to take the risk yourself? You know, who does that responsibility then get pushed to? Because the contract manager will rarely be on the ground, the operations manager will rarely be on the ground. It's going to come to the person at the coalface to manage that risk on behalf of the company. Like, you know, often left with no real knowledge of the law or no real knowledge of liability and what it means for the company. Just don't get us in trouble. You know, you'll get your SOPs, you'll get your assignment instructions, but in terms of actual knowledge of the law, I would assume that most people don't have an in-depth knowledge of occupiers' liability when they send their individual security staff. I know on individual security training courses, it's covered for about, on the PSA courses, it's covered, certainly on my course, for about 15 minutes, I would say, on the civil law day. And you give a couple of examples and you say, this is what you need to watch out for, and then we move on, you know. And I don't know if any other company after that then goes on to give further instruction, but I would very much doubt it. We talk about reasonably practicable duty of care and the difference between best practice, common practice, and reasonably practical. There's a lot of terms that get thrown out there, you know, in terms of, oh, we need to get to best practice. Nowhere in the law does it say you need to be operating at best practice. What's best practice is what the people with all the money in the world can afford to do. What's common practice is not always right either. Just because it's happening all over the country doesn't make it okay. So it's up to each individual site and each individual company to decide what's reasonably practical for a company or an operation or a security team of my size, my structure, and my security context, which is a big important thing. Security context is important in liability. What is the security culture of the building? Who is coming through the doors? Do these people work here every single day and know their way around the building? Or are we open to the public and you could have strangers coming in and out the door? That greatly changes your duty of care to the people walking through the door. You know, what times you open, what time of the year it is. All those things change security culture in a building. There are clients that I would work with where you give them very reasonable risk control measures that involve putting in things like access control measures or CCTV on work floors, and they completely go against it because it doesn't fit with the security culture that they have adopted in the place. So they adopt what's called risk appetite. They will accept that level of risk so as not to inconvenience their staff or their customers or whatever the case is anymore. And that's a risk that they have to accept, that if they lose, they lose in a case like that. You know? And then we'll talk about risk reduction. So I've kind of broken it down into risk reduction from general risk reduction, from liability, negligence and defamation. And then after that, we'll open up to you guys to do anything that you want to talk about. Which are the main ones? If anyone wants to talk, I don't know, is any retail ones? Any retail security here? No? No, most people want to talk false arrests when it comes to retail security. You say, don't arrest anyone, no problem then, you know. Problem solved. So, liability under law, I suppose. Liability in Ireland, a lot of it comes from common law. It's just acceptable practices and principles and stuff like that. When it comes to my thoughts on liability, I would say that, you know, every situation that you enter in as a security person, as soon as you put that uniform in, every situation carries risk. Not every situation carries liability. You know, how the client or how you as a service provider choose to treat the situation will dictate whether that risk turns into liability. You know, liability can exist naturally. Liability doesn't end at the point of an incident. You can have a very plain accident with no liability on anybody. It's just an accident. These things happen. Yeah. But what the security staff or the responding staff do in responding to that can create a liability afterwards in terms of how they manage the incident and the aftermath of the incident. There's a saying that I used to use with the hospitality industry quite a bit around management of first aid incidents, and it's ring true for me over the years. I don't know what you guys agree with this, but I always say people don't sue for their injuries, they sue for their treatment. You know? I've seen people with really, really bad injuries not sue or not take a civil claim because of how the incident was managed by the venue in the aftermath of the incident. And I've seen incidents where people get very, very minor injuries, and because they don't feel like they were valued or treasured or looked after, they then go on to take a civil case. So I think liability doesn't just stop when you have an accident or an incident, you know. And in terms of security, I've seen very much, I think it's trying to change a little bit, but I still see a culture of, if I make a mistake, the first thing thought in my mind is, how do I cover up this mistake I've just made? You know? And it still happens so often. I know of an employer whose a security operative had a false arrest claim, and the solicitor's letter came in 4 months later, and that was the first that the employer heard of the incident. And when they went talking about it, the guy knew of the incident, but knew he was going to get in trouble if he reported it, so said nothing and tried to get rid of the footage and rid of the evidence and hoped that it waited for 28 days until the CCTV footage was all again. You know, in that case, the security company approached their insurer approached me and said, what should I do? And I said, start writing zeros on the end of a check, because there's no defending that once it happens. You know, you might as well just start writing the zeros now and hand it out to the person. You know, employee knowledge or lack of knowledge is probably the biggest liability in the security industry, and that's not generally the fault of the employees. It's just a culture we've had in the security industry. You know, the mushroom approach to training security staff. Keep them in the dark and feed them with shit, you know, and hope that they keep us out of court in the long-term approach. And that's just been a culture or systematic approach that's taken to security incidents. You know, I could say for the vast majority of clients and security managers, the vast majority of security staff working on the ground don't know how many claims that the place has had in the last 3, 4, 5 years. Aren't told about them. Aren't told about what's happened and how you respond to them. Unless an insurance company comes down and says, "Fix this now," and then you're told you must change what you're doing, you know. Best practice isn't always reasonable, like I said, you know. And then the kind of key one there is this one here. You know, you can work now, either way you're paying out for security related issues. You can pay out now and avoid it, or pay out later as a consequence of it. It's completely up to you how you choose to organise your payments, you know. And some people do accept that. They will accept that they're going to have a certain number of claims over the course of a year, but paying out on those claims is often easier than. You find that a lot in the district court with discrimination related claims, you know, where you'll have discrimination related claims that the district court is held to a maximum, I think 3,200 or something like that, and various changes say, yeah, look, rather than dealing with it and dealing with the aftermath of incidents, we're just going to pay out the claims. You know, it's easier to settle the claims. You know, it's just easier to do it, like, you know. With low value claims, it's sometimes easier for them to do that than to invest in actually preventing the claims in the first place, like, you know. And that's fine. That's absolutely fine if that's the choice of business. If that's the way a person wants to run their business. It's their money, like, you know. There's no arguing with them. You know, it's how they choose to do their money. So we talk about the laws and different types of liability and different ones that come across. Probably the biggest one is this one here, occupiers liability. That's the biggest source of claims, without a shadow of a doubt. There's some terms in there you have to understand. Occupiers liability comes under the Occupiers Liability Act 1995. Once you open your doors to the public, you are liable for their safety. Yeah, at varying levels, depending on whether they're a customer, recreational user, trespasser, whatever the case might be. Employers liability, something similar. We've seen that in the last couple of years. Particularly in the security industry, actually, in front of WRC, we've slowly started to see a rise in security officers taking claims against employers. You could argue whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, or whether they're claiming against the right people. What I'd like to see over the next couple of years is more security officers, particularly in the door security industry, start to take civil claims against people who actually assault them rather than their employer. You know, I can guarantee if it happened the other way around, they will be taking the claim against you. You know, so there's some important terms to come in here. Anybody working the consultancy area things where you're providing service-based stuff, this is an important term to understand. Efficacy, and even in provision of security services, like, you know, efficacy is your ability to carry out what you said you were going to do. We've seen, I suppose, some turmoil in the event industry around that this year, around security suppliers turning around days, weeks in advance of the event and saying to the concert promoter, by the way, we can't staff it. You're looking at me like you know something that I don't know. And we've seen a number of places. I know of a particular hotel venue in the west of Ireland who took about 2 months last year to get security staffing for a large event that they were holding. They just couldn't get companies in the middle of summer that had 40 extra staff to staff events. Like, they just couldn't find them, like, you know, in the middle of the summer. And it's only a matter of time before companies start to get efficacy claims in, because events are going to start having to be cancelled and called off and postponed and curtailed, because the way the events industry has gone in Ireland now, there's an event from March till October, multiple events every single weekend, and there's only a small amount of security that can fulfill those events. And when they bring in licensing this year, that amount of security is going to get smaller again. You know, that pool of security that you're drawing on is going to get smaller again. So you're going to start seeing pressure now on concert promoters to have either less events or pay more for security, and you're going to start seeing pressure put on the door security and the guarding end of things, because the event industry is going to start offering better money for people to come in and do the work. You know, might take a couple of years, but that's the natural progression of things. Supply and demand is what generally drives it. You know. Sorry, I'm skipping way ahead there. I've gone way past them. You know, I just keep pressing random buttons. Professional indemnity, another type of liability. I suppose that, again, for people like me, that's quite an important one, you know, especially for people who are doing training, that if I tell somebody to do something in a training course, they then go and do it and they hurt somebody, well, I better be damn well better be able to stand behind it. And that's what I spend quite a lot of my time. And some trainers are embarrassed about that. I think in the last 2 years, because of some of the contracts that I train on, particularly delivering the physical skills training and the conflict management training, I've had to go to court on numerous occasions and defend my own training that I've given to people. And I'm often shocked at how many trainers aren't willing to do that. They say, oh yeah, no problem, I'll give you X, I'll charge you X amount to come and deliver this training, particularly around physical skills or stuff like that, you know. And then you say, well, just check with them, are they going to be willing to go to court and stand over what they've just shown your guys? And they all go, court's not my speciality, I'm kind of more a trainer when it comes to that kind of stuff, you know. So to any trainers, consultants, if you're giving them reports, something like that, you can't ever give anything in that you're not willing to be able to sit in a witness box and say, yes, I said it, or yes, I did it. Door security industry, I go as far to say is it's nigh on impossible to get now, isn't it? You're currently going through rigmarole with it. I know of another couple of companies, I help some small companies get set up with PSA licensing. The way it is now, most insurers are looking for you to take out a guarding skills sector license first, do a year or two with no claims before they'll even look at you for deliberate act insurance. because so many have gotten stung with deliberate act claims over the years. It's very, very difficult to get deliberate act insurance now. And let's be honest about it, that is because of people working in the door security industry. That is because people have gone beyond what they're supposed to be doing and have assaulted people, and that has resulted in huge payouts for companies.